Chapter 1. Breaking Out of My Prison, Enduring in Silence. The day it all stopped, the nightmare that started so long ago. I'm not sure I can recall every single detail, but being terrified could probably describe my feeling. Sitting on the floor in the corner of my room with my knees against my chest and a knife in my hands, I was determined to end my agony. Something had to happen. I could not allow him to touch me ever again. I would not allow him to hurt me anymore. I had endured this nightmarish in silence for so many years. That day, I decided that I'd rather die than close my eyes once again and bear such unbearable pain. I guess I purposely block many of the events in my mind, but I can still remember some of the horrible things I was forced into. At that time, I used to blame myself and somehow thought I brought that upon myself. Now I understand I was just a child, not more than 5 when it all started. How guilty could I be? No child should ever have to go through something like that. We could start looking for who was at fault, but I surely don't want to go into that. I've learned to let it go. All is forgiven. It's not a simple task to describe this in a chapter of a book, but then again, it's also a way to heal. If you have passed through something similar, you can relate, and you can understand that despite that dark experience, there is hope. It does not all have to end in tragedy. Flashing memories. After so many years, and being sure that I had let go of the past, sometimes I close my eyes, and some memories flash through my mind. As a child, I bled, being torn inside. I learned to cry with no tears and bite my lips when it hurt. As a child, I found comfort in my dreams because that's where I was really free and safe. Year after year, I kept that hideous secret that overshadowed the happy moments. On the outside, I was still a little girl, but inside, I had grown to hate, to fear, and to suffer. My eyes had been opened to see things no child should be exposed to, and although there was one primary author to my disgrace, I must sadly confess that when he had the chance, he offered me to what I would call a similar twisted-minded clique, for which I had to perform my best. My mother frequently had to change my mattress and buy plastic covers for it, because I unfailingly wet the bed every night. And she even took me to the doctor thinking I might have bladder or kidney problems, not knowing that what I really needed was to heal my heart. I wanted to tell her so many times, but I was so afraid that as an adopted child, she won't believe me. I was afraid she won't love me again. I was afraid that the only person who I thought cared for me would reject me because I had turned into a useless, dirty, undesirable child. Even after that glorious day when it all ceased, it still had negative repercussions in my life, which I could not overcome until adulthood when I allowed God to work on my case, living in my own world. Growing up, I used to live in a world of my own. There was no longer innocence in me, and when my mates talked about the normal girl stuff, I was already beyond that and did not consider myself worthy to take part in such conversations. In the world, I fabricated for myself. I was constantly looking for acceptance and love in the wrong places, with the wrong people. My relationship with boys became a business deal. I would submit whatever they wanted from me in exchange for affection, a tender touch, or just to hear, "I love you." I'd lie and adjust to almost anything to fit their perfect girl design. I was resolute to fill that need of love however I could. At 9, I had long figured out that my life differed greatly from those of my acquaintances. My dog pets became my inseparable friends. I did not have true human friends of my own. Honestly, I was so tired of everything. I would fantasize about myself leaving this world to meet the so-called God they preached about in my church. He was incapable of hurting me, and I heard he was a father and a friend. I heard he was love. Maybe he was real. I just wanted all to be over and done. I remember pushing the dresser against the room door that day. My parents had left that evening, probably for a meeting or to run some errands. Fear made my legs weak because I was alone and an easy prey to the predator, the abuser. Before they could leave the gate, I had already locked myself in the room and totally lost my mind, thinking of that monster. I took the biggest knife I saw in the kitchen. I'm not sure if it was the sharpest. I also held my teddy bear, George, close to me. I was uncertain if I could have the strength to injure that beast. After all, he was older than me and bigger in size, but I was sure I could hurt myself bad enough to avoid such terrible fate in his hands. At that moment, even death seemed like a good escape. The day it all ended. I could hear his steps getting closer and closer. I skipped a heartbeat when he knocked on the door. I think I was cold sweating and shaking. For a moment, I felt an emptiness from my chest to my stomach, and everything around me started spinning. He knocked harder as I refused to open the door. In my innocence, I prayed, God, please take me, help me disappear, free me from this. He then forced the door and easily pushed the dresser in an attempt to get in. I took a deep breath and shouted, If you ever try to touch me again, I will kill you or kill myself. He stopped and saw me in that corner with the knife and squeezing the teddy bear with all my might. I'm not sure what exactly made him to stop. Maybe God did hear my prayers. Then he smiled, took a few steps back, and left. Ever since that day, he never touched me again. That's how I overcame this episode in my life. Nevertheless, this was only one battle of many more I'd have to fight.